Hey, this, I do this for real. And side note, I do this for a living and for fun. So when you ask me what I do for fun, this.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the continuation of Sacred Contracts. If I am not mistaken, we are on part 5, and this one will probably be a longer video because I'm trying to get through this book. I gotta get through this book, y'all, okay? So, we are going to dive in. Grab your paper, grab your pen, pencil, whatever you need, your phone, if you want to jot down some notes. Also, in every video, there is a transcript. I myself haven't went back to check those transcripts yet to see if it's accurate. But I do plan on actually preparing something similar to a transcript that will be available for purchase if anyone is interested. After we finish this book and I really combine everything and get it in the format of how I want it to be. Okay? For those of you who don't really want to do the Audible or even really want to read the book, it's a thick book. And the Audible is, I think, 9 hours long. But either or, y'all know how I do. I am going through this video. We are not editing today. We are just going with the flow. So take all mistakes. Take all of that. Take it for love, okay? All right. So where we left off, I started talking a little bit about the first sacred contract documented according to this book, and it was about the story of Abram and how Abram went through this contract and how he didn't always make the best decisions. But the first sacred contract speaks on the story of Abram. The new covenant between God, Abram, and his offspring is the first officially declared sacred contract. Abram's relationship to Yahweh is central to our understanding of the nature of our sacred contracts. So Abram was 75 years old when Yahweh told him to leave his country. Abram sets out to Egypt, named his wife as his sister, and was rewarded with flocks, oxen, donkeys, and men and women slaves. Okay? Pharaoh eventually found out the truth, kicked them out, and Abram is now back on the frontier. Why? Why did he do that? Why did he choose to go about his contract in that manner? Now remember, Abram had already signed this contract with God. So he knew that he was going to be safe, protected, provided for him and his offsprings, right? Yet, he went to Egypt, named his wife as his sister, and was rewarded with flocks, oxen, donkey, men and women slaves. Why did he do that? Why did he choose to go about his contract in that manner? He was selfish, he lied, he used his wife to get things he wanted to save himself. Why? Was it the lack of faith? Even though he had his contract with Yahweh, he at the moment assumed that Yahweh would fail to protect him. He gained wealth under false pretenses and slaves as well. Abraham had the greatest task of Israel. He gave his wife away twice. Now, don't get me wrong, for those of you who are not familiar with the story, again, this is based off of the examples of the book. things that happened. So, of course, we're not going to just name all the bad stuff, but while listening, I want you to apply it, reflect upon it. How many times have, knowing what we know, knowing that we're going to be safe, knowing that everything is going to work out, and we still go about doing things or trying to have control or keep control over a situation that we were supposed to just give to God in the beginning. Have faith and follow through in the beginning. He gave his wife away twice. But now let's look at it symbolically. Symbolically, though, his flaws indicate that he was not a perfect spiritual being or man of unlimited faith and vision. When trouble came, he chose acts of deceit for survival, despite the encounter he experienced with the divine. He struggled with his own nature, his moral weakness, fear, and greed. These were characters of his ego and not his soul. Okay? So don't go too hard on Abram. But apply it. Think about a moment where you have went about doing something in a way, even though you have had this meeting, you have been told how something is going to plan out, and you go about doing it in a way to save yourself because you haven't fully trusted that other being. You haven't fully surrendered. You don't have enough faith to really release and know that everything is going to be okay. So, everybody has done it. I don't care what y'all say. Everybody has had one of those moments, a few of those moments. Everybody, one way or another, everybody has went through that. Those were characters of his ego and not his soul. His soul had been awakened by divine intervention. A soul with vision, strength, and stamina. These qualities surfaced when the time was right and when his faith was strong enough where these qualities could thrive. So, that was the way he moved, that was his ego, not his soul. When you have an awakened by the divine, such as this, a divine intervention, it transcends you to a way where not only you believe and you have faith, but you have enough of it to thrive. You have enough of it for your soul qualities to thrive in whatever it is that you are doing or that your contract is calling you for. I'm sure that there are many who can reflect and relate and see the correlation of Abram's story along with your own. Everybody has had a moment. Abram's soul was able to rise to the occasion and what it demanded of him. We face and are asked the same of ourselves daily. What you may think of as your ordinary attributes aren't a fair indication of what spiritually extraordinary attributes that lie within you. This story tells us that our own flaws serves only to conceal the valuable nature of our own potential contribution to humanity. We tend to focus more on our faults, like egotism, narcissism, than our capacities and promises. Yet we hold the potential for greatness. Let's not forget, in the birth of two nations, Abram's wife couldn't have children. He responded and they came to an agreement where he reproduced with one of the slaves. The slave who ran away because of how she was treated, then in the process of her running away, she was told to return to the abuser, if you will. His wife couldn't have kids, so they decided to use one of the slaves. Then the wife ended up being jealous of how the lady was treated. She was getting too much attention and ended up abusing her. So then the slave runs away and is told to now return to where her abuser lives. How many people would have done that? Be honest. How many people would have done that? In spite of how people do what they do, by forgiving them, you don't absolve them from personal responsibility or condone their actions. We have the choice and we exercise free will within our contract when we avoid doing evil. This story shows that we may need to endure necessary evil in the service of our contract. Apply that statement as you see fit. The experiences and relationships in our lives are there by design, all in support of the sacred contract established between us and God before birth. Even when we reach a point where we feel that we are finally doing what we're supposed to be doing, our faith will never stop being tested. Because gaining insight into our contracts doesn't mean we have perfected faith. We will be asked over and over to release parts of us we hold closest or dearest in our lives, only to discover we haven't given anything up. Instead, we're given so much more in return. You can't know the depths of the purpose of your life if you aren't willing to release those parts that no longer are necessary. Your sacred contract can carry you through dark times, and you are equipped with tools to assist and guide you through life. We all have times where we have questioned the motives or feel like our task is too great. Those times is where we need to have faith that we already possess the intuition and the inner skill needed to fulfill our contracts. In time, you will discern a progression in the way your own contract is revealed to you. No matter how different your life may seem from others, its unfolding follows a pattern. In part 6. I'm still wrong, y'all. It's so many parts I got broken down. So, in chapter 3, but continuing on with part 5, I told y'all I'm not editing today, okay? We will talk about how the contracts reveal themselves and learn to recognize the steps that make their progression. So, the stages of a sacred contract, that is where we're going now. Bear with me. Okay? The stages of a sacred contract. All growth occurs in stages in spiritual development with no exceptions. Oftentimes, many are unaware that they've reached another stage until sometimes afterward. Many of the experiences that we go through may seem to be hard to understand or make no sense at all. That's because they are prerequisites for what's to come later. Each stage is like a lotus flower unfolding in retrospect. So think about so many times when we have been through so many things and it just does not make sense. We can't place it. We don't know where this piece of the puzzle is supposed to go. It's because it's something that is meant to make sense later. It all comes back full circle. It all comes together in the end. But at the time, in that moment, it's hard to make sense of. It's like, why? why you had me do this if I was supposed to be doing that? And if I'm doing that, am I going to finish this before I start this? Like, what are we doing here? I cannot tell you how many times I have asked my team before, what are we doing? What is happening? Why do I have task A and I'm not done with A and y'all moving me to B and now I'm over here with D? Like, we gonna skip C like that? And then by the time I get to E, A, B, C, and D all make sense. So Evelyn Underwood wrote a book called Mysticism, where she distilled the enlightenment process into 5 stages: the awakening, the purification, illumination, the dark night of the soul, and the divine union. These mystical stages represent an archetypal model of progression to soul clarity, that is, the capacity to recognize that the material contents and relationships of our physical world are here only as props or parts of our service to our contract. So I want to share with y'all real quick. Give me a second. Let me grab the book. Real quick, I want to share something for you to reflect upon as we continue. So, it says you may want to pause and reflect for a time here on our promotings. Any promotings or coincidences or intuitions you've had over the years. Write them in your journal or notebook. Note whether they came to you in a dream, through a comment, warning, or compliment from a loved one or a stranger, through lyrics of a song, or feeling you got from a music or nature, or through something you experienced or learned through a work or a pastime. How did you react to these inklings at first? Did you welcome or ignore them, or even suppress them? Did you act on them? What happened afterwards? The way you receive intuition or calling or guidance will help you determine the kind of archetypal forces that are at work in your life and will ultimately help you discern your sacred contract. So Abram's awakening to the nature of his sacred contract follows the 5 stages outlined. As with anything, we learn the stages generally overlap and continue to unfold throughout our life as we grow or develop a skill or insight. The stages are not strictly linear progression, but rather a continuous process of growth and unfolding that you may go through a number of times in your life as you encounter new challenges or circumstances. So, what are we about to talk about? The stages. We're going to get into these stages. Let's go through the stages of a sacred contract. The first stage is contact. A moment of connection occurs between you and the divine. We will be introduced to the divine through ordinary and extraordinary experiences, even if spiritual messengers are not involved. The divine may be revealed to you in a moment you may consider to be a disaster. It's not always the case, but it can be sometimes. It can be revealed to you through a disaster, through dreams, extraordinary coincidences, or through prayer and meditation. No matter how it comes, it gets your attention enough to where it causes you to think something out of the ordinary. It causes you to think outside of the box. It causes you to sit with for a minute. It stays on your mind, okay? Encounters with the divine is ongoing. It is not a one-time phenomenon. Once you get that initial contact, just be ready. Put your seatbelt on, do whatever you need to do. Get comfortable, because you're about to get uncomfortable. You're about to get uncomfortable in certain instances. Not all the time. But once that contact is made, it is forever. It doesn't stop Once you make a conscious connection with the energy of the divine, the presence is forever within your awareness and life. So, stage 1, contact. Stage 2, heeding the call. Having been awakened, you apply new wisdom to your life at hand. Awakening to the divine is meaningful only as a step in your journey of spiritual transformation. Yes, it is perfect. It is wonderful. It is magnificent. It's a major first step, but it's just a step. Now, it is an important step. However, it is just the first step. You must act and take another step. Heeding the call of the divine within doesn't mean retiring to a life of contemplation. Once you feel the initial contact, look for ways to act on that experience. Genuine spiritual awakenings always manifest as a desire to be of service to others. Examples would be like parenting, teaching, counseling, healing, volunteering, or any form of creative work, as long as its underlying goal is to help others realize their divine potential. Your compassionate acts are the physical manifestation of all inner spiritual work you are doing. Number 1, step 1, contact. Step 2, heeding the call. Step 3, renaming. And I'm saying steps, but again, they don't technically go in this order. Of course, 1 and 2 does, but certain ones, they're all like intertwined, right? As you grow spiritually and as you go through different experiences, these stages may shift. They play a different part. They all play a role several times. It's ongoing. It's never ending. So anyway, stage 3 is renaming. You assume a new name or role with spiritual significance. Y'all, stage 3, renaming is something, okay? Most of us do not assume an actual name when we embark on our path, yet you may feel significantly changed and may signal that change in a variety of ways. You may create a home altar or a sacred space. You might set aside time for prayer and meditation daily. You might work with a teacher or spiritual director to guide your development. You might create or you might join a community of like-minded souls to advance your spiritual practice, or even change your diet or other habits. A renaming is described as such in the book, but what's not in this book that I'm about to tell y'all, that I know for a fact, is that a renaming still goes on. Yes, you may do everything I just mentioned on this physical plane. I've done all that. I have done the altar. I have an altar. I do meditation. I do prayer. I teach. I speak with people. I have a community of like-minded individuals. I'm always introducing somebody to somebody, pulling somebody in, done all that. Change diets, going fast. No, I'm not saying that this isn't big. This stuff matters, okay? But what I'm saying is a renaming is still a thing. It's still a thing. It still goes on. Even though you do everything that I just mentioned on this physical plane, spiritually, there is a renaming initiation ritual that does take place. And you will know it because you will be in attendance, okay? So, next, we have contact, we have heeding the call, we have renaming. Now, assignments. Assignments. Throughout life, you encounter extraordinary opportunities and challenges that require continual transitions and adjustments. So, At crucial points in our lives, we are placed in situations that require of us an unaccustomed skill, courage, and wisdom. Such movement indicates our sacred contract is in play, but how we respond to those moments are up to us. You still have free will. You still have choice. Just be mindful. We grow primarily through our challenges, especially through life-changing moments. When we begin to recognize aspects of our nature that makes us different from the family we are raised in. Swimming against the current becomes part of our energy vocabulary. Don't be overly harsh on yourself. When I read that, I was like, don't call me out. But when you reflect, y'all see what I'm talking about? Y'all heard them knocks, right? This is what I be dealing with over here. This is what I be dealing with spiritually. I just said, don't call me out. Swimming against the current becomes part of our energy vocabulary. Don't be harsh on yourself. On your self-assessments when you reflect throughout hearing key points from this book, but look for unexpected results. Hence, knocking at the door. Or I guess that was at the door. I'm not really sure where that came from. So, moving on, we have number 5. And this is the last one. Surrender. You are going to have to surrender. You are given an ongoing test that asks the question, which world will you choose to follow? That of the world, that of the divine, or that of the earth? Your contract will never ask more of you than you are able to give, no matter the times it may seem as such as it does. You will never finish the process of choice and surrender until you have surrendered all to the will of the divine. Just when you feel like you've reached your limits, you are pushed further. And that's a whole word within itself. For those, if you know, you know. Just when you feel like you have reached the limits, you are pushed further. Sometimes you will have to continue your intuition, and sometimes you will have to technically, okay, wait. I like back up, slow down. Okay, all right. I misspoke. Sometimes you will have to combine. Thank you, Spirit. Sometimes you will have to combine your intuition and intellect and use as a symbolic perspective of your internal and external urges so that you can discern the voice of the divine within. All 5 stages of your contract overlap and intertwine throughout the arc of your life, especially the stage of surrender. Because that, my good people, they will push that down your throat so much. Surrender to the divine. You will hear that so many times. Surrender to the divine. Surrender to the divine. Hey, it'll be easier if you just surrender to the divine. Are you confused? Surrender to the divine. Are you feeling uneasy and down? And surrender to the divine. Listen, it never stops. It never stops. Y'all, just surrender, okay? What's the song? I will go down with this ship and I will put my hands up and surrender. Just surrender. Just surrender, okay? Trust me. Surrender. Just let go. Let go and let God. So, see, y'all hear the knocks? Y'all hear this, right? This is where I'm going to end this video for now. when I come back with the next one, we will continue to examine how the 5 stages unfolded in the lives of the great spiritual leaders. We are starting with Jesus because don't get it twisted, okay? But the next video, when we get into these breakdowns of how these stages unfolded and the spiritual leaders, don't focus only on the extraordinary details of their careers, but also on the symbolic meaning and the underlying truths. For one extraordinary paradox lies at the heart of each and their histories. Although we are uncertain of their sacred contract at key points along the way, sometimes questioned or even asked to be released from it, they nonetheless surrendered to the divine will at each of those points. Keyword of the day: surrender. Thank y'all for joining for yet another video. And again, we gotta get through this book, y'all. I want to keep going, but they have me do it, like giving y'all. We gotta break it down. They like break it down, sit with it, let them sit with it, let it marinate for a little bit, let it resonate, and then move on. But we are getting through it. Just be patient. It's a lot. It's a lot of information. It's a lot to be broken down. And it's a lot that I have to go and add myself through my own experiences and things that I have discovered while being on my spiritual journey. So, thank you all for joining. Love you. Be safe. Get that work done. Tap in. Meditate. Do all that good stuff that you do. And be easy. Okay? Yeah, it's challenging, but it's not as hard as we make it. And when you have a group of people, like-minded individuals, a loving team, and even when you don't, when you have that connection with the divine, you know that everything is going to be okay. It's all going to come together. It's all going to work for the greater good. And you going to make it. But no matter how hard it gets, as I say all the time, keep going. Bye.